to see these two teams collide in spectacular fashion. Hopefully, it's going to be a more balanced matchup than what we saw for map number 1 as we now look to SSG's map. This is going to be on Kafe. TSM has the upper hand as they enter with a 1-map lead. If they win, they get the 3rd and final automatic spot to the major. That would put SSG in a position where they will have to compete in a bracket, aka the gauntlet, to see if they're able to come out of it with the spot at the major, joining OXG and DZ. But first, let's not write any team off because we still have a match to play. It's not played on paper. Operator bans happening in front of your very eyes.
I could see it being played on paper. Like a Dungeons and Dragons type deal. You know, you roll a die.
You know, Rainbow Six D&D is a, I think that's the crossover we never knew we wanted, but we'd enjoy nonetheless.
Yeah, it'd be pretty fun. I've always wanted to do some D&D, but I've never had any friends to do it with. Now, we've got the defense starting off here for TSM, and they'll go to Reading Fireplace. Interesting that we're going to start in a middle of the map bomb site. Typically, you'll see the top of the bottom played first here, but not for TSM.
The site rotation that we've seen on Kafe has been an interesting thing. I mean, when Kafe first released, every single team was going to what was the best bomb site on the old Kafe. Maybe it was just force of habit. Maybe it was that the strats could still transfer over well. But the bomb site that was seen as the indisputed best was the top floor, the double cocktail bomb site. Well, teams have now decided maybe it's not the best bomb site anymore. So instead, they have started using Kitchen as the 1A to Reading Room's 1B, and it's not uncommon for us to go through an entire professional Kafe match without seeing that top floor bomb site at all, because teams have started to use that dining and mining bomb site, which is adjoined to the Reading bomb site, very similarly to the same way that they defend Reading and the same way that they defend Cocktail. And this was all going to hinge on the a roam of the top floor. TSM are obviously expecting a heavy presence above, and they have fallback plans, aka an insurance plan, with 3 nitro cells.
Whoa.
But that is an early pick. Merc decides to go for a good night, but instead he has an earlier bedtime. And it's some commendation given towards Rampy, as Rampy ends up winning that fight and gets the very first pick of the matchup.
Drops get opened up here on the ceiling, and Rampy pre-firing the skylight, maybe expecting C4. Nothing happening yet, though, from TSM. They were still trying to be aggressive, and Achieved is actually going to be playing by red stairs, ascending to meet Faults. But the phone call will force Achieved back. There you go. That's a good use of the Dokkaebi from SSG, where once we were seeing TSM just take every single fight they could, and I'm sure Achieved would have taken that fight on red, he had to fall back because of that phone call. So that's going to be, I think, a common thing moving forward on the attack half for SSG. They'll try to push off TSM in indirect ways. They're hunting him, though.
They are. And they've spotted the Malusi, know exactly the positioning. It's going to be a fight between Fultz and Achieved, who will now get pinched, but he's pushed from 2 different angles. He gets found and hunted down by Rampy, even though Fultz was the one to start that off. This unpredictable style of play from TSM has, unfortunately for them and their fans, resulted in an early death for Achieved. Obviously, Merc's spawn peak is an outlier. That's not going to be something that I expect us to see him repeat. But it has put his team in a hole. And TSM had momentum coming in here. Remember, there is no momentum system in Rainbow Six. It's not like operators lock or weapons are unavailable. All the momentum that we talk about in this game is purely in the players' heads. And right now, I think it's not really up for debate that SSG has it. On the hunt, Geo, he's got 2 lined up, but it's an SMG 11. That's going to be a challenge. He gets it downed on Thinking Nade before it can be called out. Shotgun in hand, another pump, and he's ready for it. But he'll have to engage on red stairs. He's going to be at a disadvantage despite having the high ground. He'll shoot open the hatch just to distract over by the humidor, as it's referred to as. Fultz finished off from Chala, so both these SAS operators, the remaining ones, doing well. There goes a diffuser, but Canadian will survive it. Damage done to Geo, and now he's going to need to come on in as he swings in. Big play from Geo. 2 kills. TSM have turned this round around. Bosco in a 1v2. He'll have to pull off a miraculous clutch. He sees the leg of Geo, and he'll pulverize him, leading a Chala versus Bosco showdown. No intel, though, so Bosco will have to fly on in. He's good at clutching, but he's not going to do it against Chala. TSM, despite all odds, they take the round in impressive fashion.
Chala and Geo, what a big round. 3 for Geo, 2 for Chala, and boy, howdy. Was that an impressive retake of the top floor? You're seeing it on your screen right there. This play from Geo upstairs, and the follow-up play right here as he comes into the reading door, clinched the round for TSM. Great stuff from Geo. I am honestly confounded, Parker. I am impressed by Geo, but at the same time, how did SSG let that one slip away? I mean, you're dealing with 2 SAS operators, and I know they've got a lot of utility. They've got great close-range engagement capabilities, but they're not supposed to be able to pull something like that off. SSG had the outright man advantage, and they left top floor control. Why? I know they lost 1 player in piano, but that does not... They were leaving the top floor. SSG was leaving the top floor before they even lost that player. It seemed like they didn't care about it anymore, which is confusing. Usually the top floor is used to apply pressure in reading to allow for the reading plant by the clock. I just... Strange round from SSG. Great round from Geo. Great round from Chala. Between them taking it. And TSM must be in high spirits after that.
Yeah, that's a confidence breaker. Especially with SSG starting off on such strong footing. You know, TSM took the fight to them on Consulate. SSG is not a particularly strong Consulate team. TSM is. The result goes as I think a lot of people probably expected. And if you look at these maps... Yeah, the analysts seem to think that SSG had a slight edge. I think the only edge they have comes on theme park. I think unless things go catastrophically wrong for SSG, this map is still theirs for the taking. Obviously, Echo being removed is going to throw a wrench in SSG's plans. They're going to be able to play around it, regardless. They head into this map. They get 2 picks. That pick onto Merc was relatively free. Their follow-up pick as well, onto Achieved, quite strong. They hunt him down. It's good coordination on their part. And they have every reason to continue onward and think that they're going to be able to control this matchup. It's a 2v5. They still somehow lose it. And yeah, I think that's extremely deflating on their end. I think it was just they got a bit too hasty and they tried to pivot too quickly through the mid round and thought that they had a larger advantage than they did. And it got blown up. And especially got blown up by the flank of Geo upstairs, who completely flew under the radar of SSG.
This time, SSG vying for control of the top floors, and they'll get it. TSM on the roam, but horizontal, not vertical. Extended out of sight, but not above sight. TSM are in good spot to slow down the take when it comes to the actual site itself. But they're going to have to deal with the holes that are going to be opened by Rampy using his hammer. What did we call that, Parker? The, he's doing the... Anyway, Rampy doing the on the floor, and he's putting in great work with it. He's already managed to force the anchors to stay somewhat stationary in the site. Hasn't gotten a pick out of it yet, but that might come. Just got to give it a little bit more time.
There's a pre-placed C4 as well from Bolo. Geo's tossed his out now. I don't know where the bandit intends for that one to explode, but... It's in front of Geo. That might be Bolo's. I'm not entirely sure, but you can hear the sounds of it. And I mean, because it's right next to the opening, they're going to be aware of it on Spacestation's side as well. There appears to be a nitro cell detonated. The other one is primed and ready as a logic bomb will go off. Fultz blinded and punished by Achieved. He's playing over by Freezer and doing double duty. Down goes Canadian, twisting and turning with diffuser in hand. Rampy trying to keep it close, but he's punished by Bolo. Outswings the Capital. He wins this one. SSG will need to grab that diffuser. 10 seconds left. This is going to be tough, but Bosco catches one. He knows that there's another in his position. He hunts him down. Bosco just needs one more remaining, and he'll get it. Every single kill lines up for Bosco. Spacestation steals that one from TSM, avenging the previous round.
Bosco winning every fight he's presented with. What a round from the man. And geez, that should have easily gone the way of TSM. But Bosco snatches victory from the jaws of defeat, as the saying goes, with a quad kill. Beautiful stuff from him. TSM needed just a little bit of aggression. One of those players needed to actually take the fight with Bosco. Instead, they all waited for the clock to end, assuming that would get them the dub. It didn't. Well played there. SSG, take it. And, well, this match is starting to hype up as we all hoped it would. SSG starting to take rounds on their map.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being...
That was so well played by Bosco. And honestly, for TSM, it just seemed like they were a second behind the comms. Geo was caught. Was it Geo or was it Merc? It was Merc. Merc was caught looking into Freezer, not knowing that the Capitao had sprinted out. The Capitao plays around the Freezer door, gets the pick, and then continues on in that position. Now, conventional wisdom would suggest that you would go back into the freezer and be wary of getting pushed from the back. You wouldn't just continue to push forward in the direction that you were heading, because there's two separate crossfire, potentially three actually, angles that you can be picked off from by that B-bomb chassis. And Bosco had to be aware of that. But the problem was that whether TSM's comms were chaotic and crowded, or whether they just simply didn't know the location of the Capitao at that particular time, Bosco was allowed to remain in that spot, and he gunned down every member of TSM that had a cross established. Large part, once again, a failure of communication from TSM, not sure. Anyway, Bosco plays that one perfectly. That was not necessarily SSG winning the round. That was Bosco winning the round. And every now and then, players will have these Herculean efforts where they will just carry the load for an entire round. It's not sustainable, and it's not something that you can account for. You don't necessarily build strategies around it, but you're very thankful of when it presents itself. And with Bosco, it tends to present itself quite often.
Certainly. Now, the clear upstairs, TSM not even on the top floor, as you can see. They are playing around the middle bottom. So more vertical roam here for TSM, trying to waste some time. Now, remember that last defense of the kitchen that we just saw? TSM didn't even bother roaming above, and because of that, they didn't waste any time. Still, though, it came to the dying seconds of the round. So TSM's thought process here is, okay, well, if it was that close with no vertical roaming, what if we delay ever so slightly? Waste 20, 30 seconds max. And if TSM can get away with this, it's probably going to pay off very well. They will already retreat Merc back into the site. And I believe the middle floor has just been cleared out. I have to get the overhead to find out in entirety. But nope, just counted them all. All 5 players from TSM have retreated downstairs. So, the box has been checked. The objective was waste 10 to 30 seconds. TSM managed it. That might make all the difference when SSG goes for the site take. Once again, Rampy starts opening up with his hammer. But this time, it's a little bit later in the round. C4 misses there, and TSM lose just a little bit of their utility.
They're continuing to watch the happen, and it ends up not netting the kill onto Geo, but Fultz, with most confidence in the world, walks through prep, picks off Geo, and then immediately gets out. This is something we saw E United attempt a couple times, where they literally just walk into prep with Alfama, get a pick, and then walk away, but unfortunately the E United of the old wasn't... well, they couldn't do it. So anyway, but clearly SSG are more than capable, and there go all of the Selmas, 1 used on the prep wall, 2 used on the main kitchen wall. This is going to force the remaining TSM members to find salvation as SSG drops into freezer. They meet their fate at the hands of Chala, who plows through both of them and has a third lined up that he'll find into Fultz. Canadian will require Bosco to cover, as Chala will need to peek out a freezer with a tiny portion of HP. Canadian gets that diffuser down, and then both Bosco and him will head for the hills. They take up the fight outside. Canadian cuts off line of sight with 1 smoke canister. There goes the other. He shrugs off a tiny portion of damage and will need to pop up. This will remove him from ADSing. He's got the smoke of Achieved watching in that position. Playing in between the ranges, Canadian will need to be as hot as the grills in front of him. Bosco outside, Canadian picks off Achieve. This is a very winnable post plant. If the Valkyrie looks the wrong way, you find your hands dying to Bosco yet again. So Chala will need to ace clutch. He's got 3 kills. Won't get a 4th. Canadian on the ground. He's watching over that diffuser like a mother hen, and Spacestation takes their 2nd round in a row. And with it, the lead in the game.
Beautifully played there from SSG. They managed to get the objective down, and despite Chala's efforts getting that triple kill over by Freezer, well, TSM just weren't able to retake their own site. Curious that the information was not present there for TSM. They had both a Valkyrie and a Maestro. I would think that one of those pieces of utility would be inside of the kitchen and somehow unmolested by the attack, but not so. Well played to SSG, clearing out all the information that was present and getting the objective down. That's the key. Canadian played that post plant perfectly. Bosco did as well. He realized Bosco specifically realized that as soon as Canadian got the plant down, Canadian would hold the front. Bosco needed to hold the flank. And the best place to do that was outside of Bakery, where no one at TSM would actually check. So, 2 rounds in a row now, where TSM have come very close to victory, but SSG have managed to snatch it away at the last second. This is starting to become a trend, and that is problematic if you're TSM, because remember, everyone, Kafe is a rather defender-sided map. Not extremely so, not quite like Oregon or Clubhouse or Theme Park. Now, all of those sit around 64 to 68%. Kafe's at a 57% defensive win rate. Now, which is very comfortable, very confident, but not overwhelming. At the same time, these are still rounds that TSM should be taking, that they are losing to SSG here. So, with those rounds in mind, TSM are going to need to effect some change here as they attempt to defend once again. I believe that's the bottom floor, but it's hard. No, it's the middle floor. Okay. We'll be defending Reading and Dining.
One thing that we can agree upon is that this has already been a much more entertaining matchup than we saw on Consulate.
Yep.
Geo gets the leadoff pick in this round. It comes quite early in the round, 40 seconds off of the clock to give TSM a slight edge. It's thinking Nate and the disruption that will come with those 2 logic bombs and the smokes as well. There's no follow-up smokes on SSG. They've actually used them a fair bit, as Canadian is off of the Ace, who comes equipped with those smokes, and instead is going to be playing on Maverick. This is a Reading defense. It's the same bomb site that TSM won on in the first round, and it really should have been an SSG round. In fact, this could very easily be a 3-0 right now, as we talked about the importance of round number 1.
Yeah, it's actually, I don't think either of these teams have managed to win a round that they had in their control from the get-go. Every single one of these rounds so far has been very close, and usually it's what you would expect to be the loser actually coming out victorious. That's a good utility burn there from, I believe that's Bosco on East Repel. He'll also force the roamers from Cocktail all the way down into the site.
Geo is without any of those gas canisters, so that could be a problem for the smoke. In the clutch, you'll need to rely on that plant denial coming in the hands of the C4, of which, for TSM, there are 3 in play. And as long as you're not getting picked off from that Reading doorway or on the upstairs floor, you've got a nitro cell that can hit that default plant. Problem for TSM is that SSG has that 3rd floor control, and they are in a good spot as ever to punish TSM should they try to swing. Canadian waiting for the call to get the diffuser down, as SSG still quite comfortable upstairs. Fultz as well as Rampy are up there, but now we're going to see Fultz drop down. He's on flank watch, watching to see if somebody will come out of mining, and well, there's one lined up for him. Could be a relatively easy kill. Nitro cell comes out, and it'll stop the planter from living, but not the plant itself. An almost perfect retake from TSM, as they are in a 1v5. Above, it's a flawless round, with Bolo finishing things off. Teams tied up at 2 apiece. Diffuser goes down for SSG, but not a single body from TSM goes down. Really well played on that retake, catching TSM, or catching SSG, with their pants down in the post plant.
Well, that's an awfully rare occurrence there. A post-plant round where the defense manages to win it flawlessly. Don't see those every day. Now, the execution there from SSG, you could see that they're continuing the trend of playing the objective. That's been SSG's main focus for this entire series. They're doing a great job of it. And that round, you know, I'm sure easily could have gone SSG's way based on their objective play. However, TSM were just better on the gunfights during the plant. Now, while the plant was going down, what was rushing through my head was, how is TSM allowing this? How are they not denying the plant? They have so many tools to do that with. But it ended up not mattering because of the lethality of the retake. So I guess you can't really bash it if it works for TSM. An impressive round there, to be sure. Though, again, that's one of those situations where strategically you would say, oh yeah, SSG's got this, before it all falls apart. I especially loved how quickly, or how swiftly, I guess I should say, SSG took control of the top floor. I thought that was pretty impressive. There was a decent chunk of time burnt, to be fair, by TSM's roamers upstairs, but I think it was fast enough for SSG.
It was a pretty good pace. I haven't really seen too much of a trouble on these 4 rounds of Kafe for SSG's time management. They seem to be balancing their clock quite well. Look at the triangle of the triangles, by the way. Let's go back to the Triforce.
Where is
Look
it?
at the Triforce. Look at it. The Triforce.
Is that where... Oh, yeah, the triangle.
Yeah,
yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Neat.
It's not exact, but it's pretty close.
Kinda.
Kinda.
Triforce
Yeah, so
is
you
from that one video game with the guy that everyone confuses the name of, right?
Yeah, you play as Zelda to rescue the princess.
Princess Link, you mean?
Yes, Princess Link. That's correct. Yep.
TSM.
I can only imagine how angry that just made
90%
a select amount of people watching just got infuriated.
Well, I mean, the entire audience is probably gamers, so I'd say most of them, right? By the way, it's top floor. That's really rare.
Yeah, we are seeing a cocktail defense, by the way, as we can now swing back in because it's been a minute, and I mean, it's the perfect time to engage with some banter as very minimal action has happened. It's still discovery work from the attackers as SSG were very quick, as you pointed out, to be able to take control of that top floor on the previous execute, which was on the reading bomb site. Things are going to slow down quite a bit because you're going to have more of a concerted hold upstairs by the defenders. They are not going to relinquish the top floor and fall back as we saw them do when there was about a minute and a half left on the previous round, because obviously they're not going to concede the entire bomb site. Unless there is a retake strategy in mind with nitro cells, which we've seen happen, the default plant spot is primed and ready right there on your screen, right next to the one Banshee or the Wub. My apologies for mislabeling it.
It's okay.
There is a nitro cell down below that can very easily stop that plant in its tracks. We've seen that tons of time, and well, would you look at that? An operator lurking down below achieved happens to be equipped with such an explosive.
Ooh, well-placed smokes there from the Capital and from Canadian. Look at that. It's going to only leave the double door open. C4 misses from below. Achieved will get one by pillars, but the plant is still going down, and SSG will put it into a post plant. With the skylight being in view of that plant, it's unlikely the defense will be able to win no matter how good the retake is. The gunfights are going the way of TSM, though, and as Bosco dies, that actually could sway the entire outcome. Merc is on the disable, and that's it! TSM answers objective play with the objective play of their own, and Merc will get it while the absolute slog of a fight is still underway.
Wow. So that was some really impressive stuff. Bosco, who was playing on the skylight, who was punished by Geo, his attention was turned over to Cocktail. Obviously, with where the plant was going down by pillars, it was in a very open spot. Achieved down below, it looked like when he was playing on that second floor, I'm kind of surprised he couldn't see because it looked like that portion of the floor was shot out. So Canadian should have been visible playing on that opening. He wasn't, though. Whether we just, didn't see him at all or whether Achieved was looking elsewhere, most of that round looked like it was every player looking in the wrong direction. And obviously for TSM, that ended up working out because Bosco was looking in the wrong direction, which is why he doesn't spot Mert going for the disable. Bosco's attention is drawn to Geo over by Cocktail, and Geo ends up winning a shot that earns praise in the chat from Bosco because that is an incredibly hard one to make. There is a tiny bit of your head visible from the skylight, referred to as head glitching. Spoiler alert for most people, most FPS games, you're shooting out of your forehead. So you might only be able to see a tiny bit of your opponent, but they can see all of you because of the way that perspective works.
10 seconds left before insertion.
Regardless. Gio ends up hitting that shot. Even if Bosco had won that shot, would have he had enough time to then immediately pivot to where the diffuser was being disabled by Merc? That's a question we don't have an answer to. It's very possible that that was what Bosco would have done. But if you're playing on the skylight, you are there to cover in the post plant. Bosco lost that fight. It left nobody to cover, and Merc was able to get the disable onto the diffuser with very minimal difficulty. So we now turn, and it's going to be a kitchen defense on the very final defense for TSM. SSG bursting through the gates relatively quickly, getting droned on in is Fultz. He's inside a reception. He was looking towards the opening that had been created by the defense in kitchen, but instead he thinks better of it. He'll go on to drone to join his teammates who had just droned out that spot. Over in VIP is none other than Achieved. He had played in this position before. He's got toxic canisters to throw the gas into freezer. Should SSG go for a freezer drop? They've gone for a freezer drop both times we've seen kitchen from TSM. This is a bomb site the defense have not won just yet. So somebody like Achieved is going to be very smart in this spot. The opening pick goes to Space Station, though, as Merc plummets from orbit. He was playing inside of prep. That is a huge amount of influence for TSM that is now gone. What this also means is that with Canadian playing on Maverick, the same strategy that SSG had gone for before, which was to open up the prep wall and open up the front of kitchen walls with the 3 Selmas that come with Ace, is no longer available. Also absent are the smokes on attack. There are no smokes whatsoever. So you're changing that out for explosive capabilities in the hands of the Maverick.
Those nades certainly can come at the right moment, right time to get some picks. SSG's been great with their utility so far through this map. It's been definitely one of the main takeaways. Now, this is an interesting round from SSG because it's one of the most linear in their execution. Typically, at this level, you'll see teams fully clear out the top 2 floors before executing, and generally, it's not just a bakery take, but you're seeing that here now. SSG trying to make this kind of a one-directional attack, and we'll see if that works out for them. The cover from above for Rampy, not netting any kills just yet. Canadian going to start droning as the wall has been Maverick tricked, and the sledge will open it up. SSG has the necessary tools. Bolo is above, though, so he can definitely stop this push. And despite the man advantage that SSG holds, this is still looking like a pretty solid defense here for TSM. Bolo's going to try and hold on to prep through these holes while the rest of his team denies the push into the site. The smokes are going to come in just a second, as will the nades and the rest of the utility. Chala gets one on the ingress, though. Rampy goes down. Canadian planting in the smoke up close with the enemy, and it might work for him as the bandit's looking the wrong way. That's a big plant there for Canadian. TSM at least is slugging back, but in the end, SSG gets the plant and maintain the man advantage. Achieved in Bolo looking to retake both by the red hallway. They don't know where the last attackers are. One spotted in bakery. Shots rattle off, but it's hard to land a shot with that SMG-11 at a range like that. The other attacker spotted inside a freezer. Gas canisters well placed, but it doesn't matter. SSG will take the round off of excellent objective play.
Mass confusion by TSM as they didn't seem to be prepared with it, and those grenades holding them in place. The flashes burning out the utility, the only smokes available coming from the Capitao, and perfectly stopped any of the defenders from seeing where the plant was going off. Canadian likes planting by that gas range in the middle of the bomb site. You have a lot of protection. You're not playing too close to the bomb chassis. Most C4s are not going to touch you at that spot, or if they are, they're going to do so minimal damage that you'll be able to continue through the diffuse going down, and then you can pop right up, and you've still got the security of those gas ranges near you, and the counters as well. You can't shoot through them. You are totally invincible in that spot as long as you play it appropriately. So the first half is done, and we are no closer to crowning a victor in this matchup, nor in this map, as SSG will go on to defense. They are going to bring a clash as Canadian favors this operator and has used her on a number of different maps. She's very good for holding out in terms of positioning with somebody playing behind you. You can eat up a lot of utility as people will try to flash you. You might get naded. They might use Zofia stuns on you to try and move the shield away. we'll see exactly how TSM is capable of wrestling with this. For TSM's first lineup, they're going to debut 2 sets of grenades as they like the Yana very much. She is an operator that doesn't see a high pick rate, but with the way that we see SSG like to run denial ops, whether it be Mozzie, whether it be Vigil, whether it be Mute, Yana is a way that you can kind of cut through those. Now, obviously, she is countered by some of those operators. She's not countered by Mozzie. She's countered by Mute, and that becomes a bit of a challenge, given that there will be a Mute on the board. But ultimately, TSM bringing tons of tools to stop any utility soak and to be able to claw back some of the intel that's going to be taken away from you by what SSG likes to run.
Roam set up upstairs here for SSG. The half wasn't bad for TSM, but it wasn't good either. I think SSG's got to be really happy with the result. The clash is going to be a new face shown here by SSG, and I'm sure this will delay the clear of the top floor quite a little bit more than you might expect. Now, typically the roamers upstairs on this site are going to try and at least burn half of the round, 90 seconds. But I expect SSG is going to be bargaining for more like, well, probably 120 seconds with the clash in play.
Upstairs and being supported by Rampy, Mute Jammers, 2 Mute Jammers actually there to stall for information. And the hope is that you don't detect Rampy playing off of this spot. Bosco nearby as well, playing on pallets or lumber or wood or whatever region you play in and whatever you call it. What do you refer to it as, by the way?
Any of those work, to be honest. And yeah, no, I'll take any of them. And I'm working on it, Parker.
Yeah. Anyway. So Merc has information, and he sees right through the play and sees right through the cabinet, in fact, is able to take down Rampy, but doesn't see Fultz down below. So you at least take one, but then it's traded off quite swiftly. It's also wasted a lot of time. So the winner in that altercation is going to be SSG. Bosco has pivoted, and he will now support the clash, playing over by Cocktail. All the while, we had seen that T5 in the hands of Fultz retreat back downstairs to join Thinking Nade. There goes a clone that's driven over towards the top of White's stairs. Bosco was playing with the double reinforcement into Freezer, so he really only needs to be worried about White Hallway and assisting Canadian as a grenade gets caught by the ADS, and Achieved will be flummoxed for now. Bolo will head on over towards Reading. Maybe he'll just provoke an engagement inside of the bomb site as Achieved misses an opportunity to narrow the numbers for SSG. Selma gets tossed out. I'm not sure exactly what the intended target for that was, as Geo now looks to confront the clash, but there's nothing that they can do to stop him. Canadian is going to continue to waste lots of time. Down goes Thinking Nade as it appears that the call has been made from TSM to pivot towards the bomb site, but Bosco, right now with a shotgun out, only takes one, loses the fight to Geo. Out goes Fultz, and Canadian with shield on his back will need to go into the 1v3. Diffuser going down, he won't be able to retake the lead as TSM's as they take the very first attack.
Beautiful round there for TSM. It looked pretty desperate for the majority of the round, thanks to the clash doing its job on the top floor. A great delay there from Canadian upstairs and Bosco as well. But you can see here, Bosco's trying to retake his own bomb site as one of those top floor roamers, and all the anchors are dead. There's nothing that can be done to deny the push in through Reading. This is thanks to Bolo's entry from the Reading door, and thanks to the fact that TSM managed to get that early pick onto, I believe it was Merc, or wait, sorry. It was Merc getting the pick, but I believe it was Rampy prone at C1, or that's usually what we call it. I don't really know what else to call that. So with that pick early, the roamer presence is lightened. Because of that, Bosco and Canadian both have to stay upstairs, and that leaves the anchors by themselves. So the forced roam, not able to rotate manpower until very late in the round, and the anchors losing their fights downstairs. Bad formula there, especially when you detract one gun from the equation, because keep in mind, Clash is great at delaying, but she is ultimately one less lethal operator in play for the defense, which puts more pressure on all of your other players. So it's a bad formula there, a bad equation, I guess, for SSG, and TSM, thanks to that early pick, able to turn it into a much more one-sided round than it might have been without the clash.
That is an experiment that SSG has tried on a couple maps, as we talked about. It is often very successful for SSG, but it doesn't stick as Canadian swaps off. And we see more traditional roles for SSG coming out now. Rampy on your roaming fragger in Jaeger. Fultz playing on the Maestro. Bosco on Smoke. Canadian Thinking Nate, as always, on that flex support style, 6th pick style of play. Nice to see SSG go to what's comfortable. Is it going to work? We'll find out, as TSM are assembling on top of the red hatch. And like most teams, they're going to start by taking the western portion of this 3rd floor. We are again mysteriously seeing a cocktail defense. It was TSM to defend it on round number 5. Now it's SSG to do so on round number 8. It is not a bomb site that is favored by a lot of teams, but if you play smartly, you play from below, there is a possibility that you can hang on to it. Very similarly to when we were watching Consulate, Archives Tellers is a bomb site that I said when you lose it, you can lose it in a hurry. Same thing here. There are limited retake potentials for this bomb site. You end up getting found out and you get suffocated. And that's the problem. So if SSG can land a punch or two, narrow the numbers and winnow down TSM's advantage, that's going to come in terms of utility and where they're going to push from, then this stands obviously a great chance for SSG.
ADS clear going on over here. That's the burn. Ash charge also being used to burn, and another stun. More stun. C4 detonated below, trying to net a kill, and there's the kill. Merc gets eliminated. And I believe that was by the Goyo shield. That's my guess.
It was, yes.
It must have been by the Goyo shield.
Yeah, Merc credited with, another on the Bosco from the Humidor. That is a great shot. They're going to have to contend with Fultz long away. Canadian engaging, and he's bartering his life with Bolo, and he loses that one. TSM find themselves with 3 kills, and Rampy is up next. Is he going to engage over on the balcony? Fultz will hold down the bomb site as Rampy comes on back. He's going to be over by White Stairs looking for a pop-out, but he might have missed his golden opportunity. This is the location of Canadian's burial. Rampy might retake over on Piano, and if TSM aren't predicting this, it could catch them by surprise. There might be no dedicated flank watch. There is actually, it's Chala. Fultz will now need to engage in a 1v5, stops the diffuser being planted, but a 3k from Merc will give TSM the round. They'll stretch their lead. They pick up their 2nd in a row, and SSG still looking for their 1st win on defense.
Well, TSM getting very close to locking this map and series out. SSG have had moments of brilliance. In fact, I would say SSG's executions were really something special. The way that they were playing around the objective and planting in the midst of the enemy was beautiful stuff. SSG really should be proud of that. And on the defense, they haven't shown much to be proud of so far. I really liked the idea behind the clash play on the first defensive round. I thought that was fantastic. It didn't work out. So SSG adjusts. They start playing a little bit differently, a little bit more what I would call standard on that last round we just saw on the top 4 defense. Very standard. However, all of that standard play is swiftly countered by TSM. The early pick on the SSG roamer, I guess you could call him, by Pixel. Typically, that takes a little bit more time for the attack to burn out the position, but TSM got it done quick. And then following that, it was just one after another picks for TSM as they attempted to entry into the site. Merc managed to get another one through the Humidor angle, one that he probably should not have been able to get. SSG's giving a lot of those free picks away at the beginning of these rounds, and that round looked completely one-sided. Nothing like the first defense from SSG. There was no bite back.
So, a top floor goes. It goes quickly. SSG are focused on fights that they're not capable of winning, and I mean, Veli hyped up Merc before this match started. Despite that outlandish performance with the 3K, Merc only had 1 kill prior to that. And TSM is a bit of an odd beast, where every single player is capable of top fragging. You look at the scoreboard right now, Chala and Geo are both on roles that don't typically net themselves the most amount of kills. And yet they are right now, and Bosco is next in line to Bolo. Down he goes, B bomb site being held, Geo going for the plant. TSM at the moment have their foot very firmly on the gas. Nitro Cell goes out, it connects, Chala with a kill, but the diffuser goes down. So the clock will start to tick against SSG. This will be match point for TSM if they prevail here. Rampy prone with Canadian nearby. They're trying to go for shots through the drone holes, all aiming at the ankles of the various TSM members. SSG will need to retake against the advantage that TSM has, not just in terms of time, but also in terms of numbers. Canadian will creep on up, and he's last left alive. He's got some spam marks, but he's going to have to net 3 impressive kills. Won't even get 1. Former teammates on Evil Geniuses. Geo will be the better hand in that duel. TSM match point, series point, and they are 1 round away from being able to go to the NA Major.
It's looking pretty definitive at this point, Parker, the way that this has been playing out. What did TSM even do in that round? Well, I'll tell you. They walked into the site. Now, they weren't stupid about it. Let's not, TSM didn't do a brazen play that had no thought put into it. No, actually, quite the opposite. Merc inserted himself over in Dining, and because he was in Dining, he cut off the rotation of the roamers who would attempt to retake into Engine. That's why you saw the plant, when it was going down from TSM, being placed at the very front of the Engine block. Because it was in the front of the Engine block, it was exposed to train, but because Merc was distracting by Dining, SSG was unable to get the line of sight onto the planter and deny the plant. Meanwhile, the rest of TSM was still covering the push from the hallway and from Red Hall as well. So there was no opportunity for SSG to deny that plant without indirect utility, such as a C4 from below, a C4 from the side, or Evil Eyes, what have you, whatever piece of utility. That was the only way SSG was able to, would have been able to stop that plant, and none of that happened. None of it was in position to happen because of how swiftly TSM executed that round. So, yes, it was what you could call a rush there from TSM, but it was a surgically executed and very well thought out rush. At the same time, SSG way too lax on their bomb site. Allowing that to happen is really unfortunate.
So SSG are just throwing things at the wall to see what's going to stick here, as now through 4 rounds they have defended all 4 bomb sites and come up empty-handed every single time. They're going to now hinge their hopes on a kitchen defense down below. SSG usually uses Echo here, and we need to remind you, Echo is not in play, so it's going to change up the way that SSG uses this. They're back on these familiar roles. The Canadian has taken the Jaeger and traded it to Rampy for a stick of gum and also Malusi. So now they are going to be rocking on, well, it was because Malusi was Canadians and Jaeger was Rampy's, and now they literally swapped. So
can I have a stick of gum, Parker?
Yeah, and I mean, most people fight to be Jaeger and Ash, right? So, I mean, you need to...
Oh, no pros, though. Playing Jaeger is a chore. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, Ash is a utility op now, too. We're in Bizarro world, Michael.
Yeah, we are, but
if you're playing ranked, everybody fights over Jaeger always.
Yeah,
everybody fights over Ash always.
Plat 3 and below, maybe.
Okay. You don't have to come at me like that.
It wasn't targeted at you. I mean...
You don't. Unbelievable.
Even my
as if Twitter hasn't been bad enough.
No, but even my rank stack doesn't want to play Jaeger. It really is a chore. You have to place all the ADSs and the barbed wire. And
Michael, something very important just happened. SSG read into the entire execute from TSM and have completely changed up how they are defending this bomb site. Yep. They are now assembling over on A bomb site. They were originally stacked up on B. They were expecting a bakery take. Not the case. It's going to be a freezer take. There goes the hatch. It could be a drop. You see TSM ripping up the floorboards. This is Extreme Home Makeover Edition. Extreme Home Makeover Cafe Edition. My apologies.
I believe there was a meme about that once upon a time for Siege.
At some point. Merc engaging with a fight into Rampy. He wins this one. 4 kills remaining for TSM to capitalize off of SSG's discomfort. Make that 3 as Geo finds one for himself, AK in hand. Canadian retreating, but there was an opening at the bottom of red stairs where he would have been spotted. Achieved wins his fight against Fultz, and this is over. At this point, barring a miracle for Spacestation, Canadian narrowly missing out on a single member of TSM, evading his gaze. Down goes the Goyo. They trade, technically. Merc at a tiny bit of HP, but it's Canadian in a 1v4. Takes out Geo. He saw him and was waiting ever so patiently, but he's not going to make it through Fireplace. Just smoldering embers for SSG, and the fire rises for TSM. We'll see you at the Major. Congratulations. It's a quick 2-0. The exact same score line. The exact same score line. I wonder where the score line is on your body, because I don't think SSG comes equipped with that one.